Hello, my name is Mara, and welcome to Books Like Whoa. So, if you are not aware, this is a very wonderful time of year here on Books Like Whoa because I go ham on my end of the year list. I just love making them. I love watching them. It's my gig. I love it. So today our best and worst list is for mysteries. Now I should tell you that within mystery, I'm including horror, I'm including thriller, suspense, action, adventure kind of things, just like kind of all lumping that together a little bit, just because I don't read enough of any one of those genres to have individual lists. So kind of shorthand that into mystery and talk about all of them together. And I should also tell you that this was an interesting year of mystery reading for me because I read a lot of mystery. I'm filming this a little bit before the end of the year, and if things hold, as I think they will be my most read genre on an individual basis. So I did read a lot of it. I also did my Mission Marple project, so I did some rereading of the Miss Marple series. I read a lot of mystery this year. But I will tell you that probably was my most disappointing genre overall in terms that I didn't have a lot of things that I just loved. And then actually when I think about it, I think in general mystery tends to be something that's pretty hard to get over a 4-star for me. Probably pretty similarly to romance. Both of those genres are ones I read a lot of and tend to have my highest rated ones usually maxing out around 4 stars. So I don't know. I did have a lot more disappointments this year in mystery than I did last year, but I did of course have things that I loved, and that is mostly what we will be focusing on today. So without further ado, let's talk about my top 10 best mystery thrillery things of the year. Number 10 is, I believe, the Goodreads mystery book choice of the year, or thriller choice, or whatever of the year, which was The Silent Patient by Alex Michaelides. Now, this is one that I probably would not have gotten around to picking up had it not been picked by a book club that I'm in. But I'm actually really glad that I got to this one because it is one of my favorite sort of, not quite a domestic thriller, but that flavor of thriller that I have read in quite some time. I thought that the writing in this one was very strong, compelling characters, and while I did guess the twist pretty early on, it didn't really diminish my enjoyment of the book overall because I felt like I was at that point just watching Michaelides sort of execute that twist, which was an interesting reading experience in and of itself. So I can totally see why this one was a big breakout hit this year. It was one that I did enjoy, even if it wasn't an all-time favorite. And I think it is hard for thrillers to really fully give me what I want from them. But I gave this 4 stars and I really did enjoy it. So I felt like it did belong on the list, especially given how hyped it was. I felt like that the hype was at least mostly merited, so I wanted to get it on the list. So I have that one at number 10, and I should say I gave that one 4 stars. I will let you know when we transition into the 4.5 star territory. Number 9 is The Lovely and the Lust by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. So if you are a watcher of my channel, you know that I very much enjoy Jennifer Lynn Barnes in the way that she does YA mystery. It really is YA mystery as I personally like it, where it is, I don't feel super dumbed down. That's something that can bother me in some YA mysteries. And I also don't think that it's super, I guess prurient. I think sometimes YA mysteries can either go in the realm of too dumbed down or sort of a shock factor that makes me uncomfortable. She didn't do that. She just has really solid character-driven mysteries that often have some sort of secret past element, which can be a little hit or miss for me, but for her, the way she does it, I really like it. Again, if you watch my channel, you will know that the Naturals series that she has is one of my very favorite mystery series ever. I just think it's great. And this one is not, I don't think this is as strong as that series, but I was very intrigued by it. This is a, kind of the setup here is that the main character is in a family who is sort of legendary in search and rescue. So they raise search and rescue dogs and they go out on search and rescue missions. The main character is a foster child, but functionally she's been adopted by this family since she was a little girl. She was found out in the woods, kind of feral basically. Her foster mom is the one who found her and has raised her ever since. And basically this is a book about a particular search and rescue incident that they all go off on, but it brings up a lot of secrets from the past, and her foster mom's dad is estranged from them, and you kind of start learning about more why that is, and a lot of kind of bigger questions get raised. This is listed right now as a standalone on Goodreads, but I've got to think there are going to be sequels, because while this does work as a standalone, there's a lot of open questions that I would be intrigued to know more about. So I gave this 4 stars. I think that there's a little inconsistency here, and I think I could see why other people wouldn't like this one as much. For me, I just really love the way Jennifer Lynn Barnes does storytelling, so for me, it really worked. Number 8 is The Widow at Pail Harbor by Hester Fox. Now, this is one that kind of straddles the line between romantic suspense and truly like a suspense book, or like in this case, it's like a serial killer mystery kind of thing. Whenever there's books I want to include that kind of straddle the line between genres, I tend to just go with like the part that for me was the most successful. And for The Widow of Pail Harbor, for me, the kind of mystery gothic component of this was what was really working. I think the romance was fine, but it wasn't all that exciting, but I really loved how evocative of atmosphere this is. So this is a gothic mystery that is set in New England in the 1800s, and it's drawing a lot on sort of like the spiritualism movements of that time for some of the atmosphere. It's in Maine, and there's like fog everywhere, and somebody is serial murdering people in this little Maine village in the same way as the deaths in the Edgar Allan Poe short stories. So like, it's just a fun serial killer mystery. And then again, like, I think what really sets this apart for me, and what I really like about the way Hester Fox writes novels, is just how evocative the setting is, how much she really just like communicates a very ooky spooky atmosphere in these historical milieus. So if you are looking for a really good historical mystery that's not going to get like super dark, I would definitely really recommend this one. And I really enjoyed this and her debut. Both have been really strong, so I'm excited to see what else she comes out with. Number 7 is Sleep by C.L. Taylor, and both this and a book that is higher up on the list are a real testament to the power of shopping in a bookstore and just allowing yourself to pick up things that are interesting to you. Because this year I've been on a real kick of trying to find what I call isolated closed circle mysteries. Think Clue or And Then There Were None, where everybody's trapped together, people start dying, you have to figure out who done it. I've been on a real kick with that this year. And I picked this up because I was, the kind of rural, like isolated house drew me in. And then when I read the back, I was like, oh, okay, I think this is one of those. And I hadn't heard of it before, and I gave it a read. For me, the first third of this book was a little slow, and I honestly thought about DNFing it, but I was like, I'll just push through. This is fine. And that's because the first third of this is not that trope where everybody's trapped together. It's sort of the buildup. And the buildup to me was not that interesting and I don't know, it was fine. And I think once I got to the end of the book, I appreciated it more. But once everybody actually gets to this isolated Scottish inn that then gets there's this huge torrential downpour and they're all sort of flooded into this hotel, then things really started working very well for me at that point. So this is the rare situation where the ending of a mystery I liked better than the beginning, because usually I tend to prefer the buildup, and then I think it sort of, loses steam and isn't as great towards the end. Not in this case. In this case, I really, really like the way that this one ended, and I thought it was just a very satisfying, isolated, closed circle mystery. Definitely one of my favorites of that type that I read this year. So again, hurrah for discovery in a bookstore. Okay, number 6, I am so excited to be able to tell you that it made the list, and that is A Madness of Sunshine by Nalini Singh. The reason I'm so excited is because Nalini Singh is an author whose work in urban fantasy and romance I really enjoy. She's one of my very favorite authors. And whenever you see an author branching out to do something new, it is exciting, but it's also ooh, I hope that this is going to be as good as what you normally do. And I can tell you that I really think that this was a very successful debut in this genre for her. Not perfect. It's not my favorite book I read this year or anything, but I think it's really entertaining. 4 stars, just fun, kind of small town thriller is probably how I would describe this. So this is set in a small, you'll notice that there's a lot of small towns on this list. I tend to like that as a setting. There's a small town in New Zealand. Our main character is going back there after a really messy ending to her relationship. And almost as soon as she gets back there, a local girl goes missing. And as she and a local cop are working to find her. A lot of secrets from the town are unearthed. One thing I will just say, I really appreciate when mysteries of this kind do not just like drag and drag and drag. I think that that is a real mistake. This is like, I think 350 pages, and it is action-packed the whole time. Like it keeps its pace going really nicely. Nalini Singh really excels at kind of writing community settings and in writing really interesting characters, so she does that. She is also an excellent plotter, and I think you can definitely see that in this book. So I just think that this is a really good genre debut for Nalini Singh, really interesting, and I'm excited to see her do more with this, hopefully in the future. But yeah, I'm very excited that this made the list because I was a little nervous, but it was really good. So number 6. Okay, number 5 is our second triumph for discovery in a bookstore, because in that same shopping trip as When I Got Sleep, I also picked up An English Murder by Cyril Hare. And this is one that I was immediately drawn in because of this great cover design. I saw the snow, I saw a house, and I thought, ooh, I wonder if that is an isolated close circle mystery. And yes, lo and behold, it is indeed. This is set at Christmas time, everyone's snowed in, somebody dies, we gotta figure out who done it. And the reason I put this one so high up is because Cyril Hare is a golden age of detective fiction author. Like, he was writing kind of in the first half of the 20th century in that same little group as, you know, Dorothy Sayers and Agatha Christie and all those folks. And I hadn't read anything from him before, and I just really enjoy his authorial voice. I thought that this was a really fun version of what is a very well-worn trope, especially in that era. This is the kind of story they may tell a lot. And I also just really appreciated the political commentary in this that was sort of unexpected. Yeah, I thought that it was really interesting because it's set right after World War II. The political elements of this that are sort of forming the backdrop and forming some of the potential motivations, etc., I just thought were super interesting. So this was a triumph of a new author from that era that I'm excited to read more from. I started with a Bear Bodkin and I just got pulled into other things, but I'm looking forward to getting back to it. And I definitely am really excited that I gave this one a try this year. Okay, number 4 is The Last by Hannah Jameson. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, the ending of this book is very divisive, and I think that the way that they marketed this set up bad expectations for people. This was marketed as an isolated closed circle mystery, that trope we've been talking about, but I gotta tell you, it's not really a murder mystery book. This is much more of a post-apocalyptic thriller with light mystery elements incorporated, and the setup of this is that our main character is at a Swiss hotel, an isolated Swiss hotel. Say it again, this is a setting I really like. I'm so predictable in my taste in a lot of ways. But anyway, isolated Swiss hotel, when the end of the world happens, basically. A nuclear war is initiated, and this is one of the only areas that is not immediately impacted with everybody being dead. So, slowly they start to run out of food, run out of access to water, electronics are not working, so things are becoming increasingly desperate, and a body is found on the property, and they are trying to find out who done it, but not really. And I think that piece of the story is the least effective, and for people who said they did not like how that wrapped up, I can't argue with you on that. I am somebody who tends to be decently forgiving on the ending of a mystery, just because I do think that it's really hard to create an ending that's extremely satisfying. So I didn't let that bother me too much, because I think in general, just the kind of post-apocalyptic thriller aspect of this worked very well for me. I really like the characters, and I just felt like the kind of conceit of the book was interesting. So yeah, I enjoyed this one, even if it didn't give me the mystery I was looking for. I still thought it was really good and really well written, worth reading if you can handle maybe not having the most exciting ending to it. Okay, so number 3 is my highest rated 4-star mystery of the year, and that is Say You're Sorry by Karen Rose. Karen Rose is a romantic suspense author, but again, I will tell you that the suspense pieces of this are what I really enjoyed. The romance was like, fine. It was perfectly fine. It just wasn't what I thought was most exciting about this. The part I liked about this really was the kind of cult serial killer elements of it. The setup here is that our main character, the main female character, is out and about, and somebody essentially tries to abduct her, but they are unsuccessful. But in being unsuccessful, there are clues that tie that attempted abduction to several others that have happened in the area. So there's a serial killer, and there's this feeling that it potentially is linked to this cult that existed in the area and then sort of like mysteriously disappeared. So FBI dude comes in to work on it because he was raised in the cult before he escaped. They fall in love and they solve the mystery. This is going to be the first in I think a trilogy or a few books that are all set in the same area with that same with some relationship to the cult as a part of the story. So I'm very excited to read more of that. And this was just super effective. It's been a while since I've read a serial killer FBI kind of cat and mouse type mystery that I liked so much, and I just had a really fun time reading this one. I just felt like it was a very effective entertainment, and that's really what I'm looking for in this kind of book. So this is my number 3 pick in the top 4-star pick on my list. And now I just realized we're actually going to transition straight to 5 stars. I do have some 4.5 stars, but they'll be grouped in with another one. You'll see. So from 4-star, we will transition to number 2, which was my first 5-star. Number 2, I wrestled with because I almost put this as my favorite. And when I really evaluated things, I realized I couldn't quite say that. But this was a 5-star book for me. This is my favorite Miss Marple book. So I did my Mission Marple this year, which was a project where I was rereading and reading for the first time a couple of them in the Miss Marple series. If you watch this channel, you know I'm an absolute sucker for Agatha Christie. She is my favorite author. It was exciting to read some books from her that I had not yet read before. And this book, the reason it's my favorite Marple now, now that I've done my reread, I can tell you this is my favorite one in that series. And I just love it because it gave me all, when I was reading it, I was having that experience where your favorite author is just giving you everything you like from them. I love the characters in this one. I think the setup is really fun. It's sort of a cold casey version of a mystery, which she doesn't always do, but I think she does them pretty well when she does them. And it just really worked for me. I think it's interesting because this is the last one that was released in the series, but it was the, I think, 3rd or 4th one written in the series. So it was written at Christie at the height of her powers time. And Miss Marple, I think, works really well in this one. I don't know. This is a really effective Miss Marple book for me. I have a whole review if you guys want to hear more of my thoughts. But yeah, I just really love this. This is a top 10 Agatha Christie book for me. So that should tell you something about how much I love the one that I decided had to be above it. But before we get to number 1, I want to pause and tell you the ones that I was most disappointed about this year in mystery, because I definitely had some ones that let me down. So let's run through those real quick. Okay, if I was going to tell you the book that probably was the most disappointing in mystery to me this year, it might be They All Fall Down by Rachel Halsell Hall. And that's because this is a retelling of And Then There Were None. And I just think as a mystery, this book didn't work. There are parts of this book that work really well, but they don't all go together. And I think that the author just really flubbed on putting us in one point of view character the entire time and making that point of view character the character that it was. So this was a real disappointment because I was very excited for a retelling of my, one of my very favorite mysteries ever. Other disappointments that were not as bad. So 3 stars, Mystery in White. This was a snowed-in train and people start dying kind of thing. It just was kind of bland, I thought. Same for A Christmas Party by Georgette Hare. This was my first time reading Georgette Hare, and I just didn't get along with her writing style, which was a disappointment to me because, I just not interested in reading more from her. I previously had been. So those were disappointing. 1222 by Anne Holt. Didn't like. You can watch my worst books of the year video for that one. Same for A Dark and Stormy Night by Jeanne M. Dams. That was one I didn't like. You can watch my worst of video for that one. The Last House Guest by Megan Miranda, I thought was just it's 3 stars. It was fine. It just was sort of really not memorable. When I was looking through my list of disappointments, it literally took me a minute to even remember that book at all. So there you go. Ragged Alice by Gareth Powell just was too short, but there was a lot of interesting things in it. It was too short to really deliver on them. Tightrope by Amanda Quick. I just think as a mystery wasn't working great, even though I really like the setting and the characters. And then The Seekers by Heather Graham. That was another one where just the author's voice writing style did not work for me. So I would say those were probably my most disappointing mystery reads of the year. Like I said, in general, if I was going to tell you overall a genre that I think was the most disappointing. Maybe it was mystery, just because I didn't have nearly as many like things I really loved in this genre this year as compared with other years. Can't all be winners. Last year I felt that way about my romance reading. So anyway, with all that being said, let me tell you my number one pick for mystery. And if you watch this channel, I don't think it'll be too much of a surprise. So my true pick for number one is Treachery and Death by J.D. Robb, because it was a 5-star book in the In Death series. It is the only 5-star book that I have in that entire series, but I also gave 4.5 stars to Echoes in Death and 4.5 stars to Promises in Death. And I put them all together here at the top because the In Death finishing binge that I had this year, because I think I read like 25 of them maybe this year, something like that, was just my favorite reading experience of the year, and Treachery and Death is officially my favorite book in the In Death series. It just has everything in one of those books that I love. So if you don't know, the In Death series is a long-running, it is a mashup of a lot of genres, but I classify them as mystery because like that's the main thing I read for, along with like the character development. But it started off as a romantic suspense. That's the first 3 books. And it definitely does still have a very strong element of like, there's a main couple who we spend a lot of time with, but it's also near future sci-fi. Like it's New York in the 2060s-ish. And it is a procedural. It's a crime procedural, and it's got kind of like a crime of the week kind of formula. Each book we're solving a new case. The thing that sets this series apart is the character work. You get to know and love these characters and watch them evolve and watch Eve open up to people in her life. And it is just beautiful. I love it. It's so good. I just love watching these characters grow. We are 49 books in, and there's still things happening with these characters that I'm interested in, excited about, new developments in their lives and like their journey and stories. It's just such a satisfying reading experience. And the reason Treachery and Death I think is my favorite is because it has the great character stuff I love in terms of development between some of our main characters, and also Eve like learning more about herself as a boss, basically, because she is a lieutenant in the police force, so she is people's boss. So there's that. It's a really satisfying kind of, it's not quite a mystery because we know who done it, but it's basically a corruption on the force case. So they are trying to unearth corruption in one of their units and some murders that have been committed in relation to that corruption. It has all of that. So I like that piece. I think there's some interesting world building that happens in it. It delivers on everything that I personally look for in the In Death books. So I just loved it. And I really loved Echoes in Death. I gave it 4.5, and Promises in Death, those were my two other favorite ones I read this year. But I just had to put that at the top because that series I just love, and finding my favorite book in that series I feel like had to be at the top. So that was my favorite mystery of 2019. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I believe that we still have at least 1 or 2 more best worst of lists coming at you here soon. Strap in for that. But yeah, I think that will do it for now. Yeah, that sounds right. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Definitely let me know below what your favorite mystery of the year was, or maybe one of your least favorite mysteries, what you thought of any of the books I mentioned, etc. And yeah, I think that will do it for now. So if you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, follow me on the social medias if you're so inclined. I have all of that information listed in the description box below. And I think that will do it. I hope you guys are having an absolutely lovely day, and I will just talk to you soon. Bye!